Hello there, men, and welcome to the Masculinism Movement channel, a place for men to be men and talk about masculinity and men's rights and issues. And I'm your host, Brian Krull, and today I'm here to talk with you about the legal biases in parenting and family courts. Men have no reproductive rights. Women have all of the reproductive rights. It is completely legal for a woman to sexually assault a man and steal his sperm. Women can sue a man for child support for just about any reason, even if they're not married and he is not the father of their child, even if they haven't cohabitated together and he was just a boyfriend, or not even. Maybe they just dated casually. Maybe he was just a babysitter. Women will sue a man for child support who is not the father instead of suing the actual father for child support simply because the real father is harder to find or makes less money than their boyfriend or whatever love interest they are trying to entrap and extort. And the worst part is that paternity fraud is completely legal. This is technically gender discrimination, which should be a civil rights violation, but since it is done by the government, it is not seen as one. Women know all of this, and thus they are able to completely weaponize the family court system against us men. Often, they will even make false allegations of the man being abusive in order to get their way, and will be successful in it because abuse does not have to be proven in order to get a restraining order. And once a restraining order is in place, it can be used against the man in court as proof of the abuse that didn't have to be proven to get the restraining order. Women will often even weaponize and use a man's children against him in order to manipulate and hurt him using psychological warfare, which they seem to be quite adept at and is not a good skill to have. They do this for the same reasons that they get divorces and often for the same reason that they get married, to take money from men. Women can take children away from a good father for any reason, even when it is obviously wrong for them to do so, morally speaking. But they are not a moral species. They are very amoral and really only care about their own self-interests. Women are awarded custody of children almost 100% of the time, even if they are abusive to the children and the man is not. And in rare cases, when the man is awarded custody of a child, they are less likely to get child support from the mother, even if they are awarded child support in court. Mothers more often fail to pay it than fathers do. And all of this is not just rhetoric. I have plenty of sources to cite below for you that prove my case here. So let's take a look at the first one from globalnea.com, which is a news story. And this is a story that I will always remember. A woman who found out that the man she was on a date with was a millionaire who'd invested in Dogecoin, seduced him into having sex with her without a condom. And once he was inside of her, she pulled a gun on him and forced him to ejaculate inside of her in order to steal his genetic material. And not only that, but after she was done robbing him of his sperm and DNA at gunpoint, when he went to the police, they did not allow him to press charges as should have been his right. The police refused to press charges. They took a passing interest in the woman's gun, probably wanted to know if it was registered or not, or if it was fired or not, and that was about all the questions that they had for him. They told him no when he said he wanted to press charges, and they didn't do anything about it, and she got away with it. And that story was a year ago now, so I wonder if she's actually had the baby and filed for child support. I would certainly imagine so, based upon the next citation here, in which a man is being forced by the justice system of family court, which, is part of the justice system, but does not seem to dispense with much justice when it comes to men and women, because this court case is about how the court is making a man pay child support for a baby that was had because he was raped at the age of 14, when an adult woman had sex with him, a boy who had literally just hit puberty and literally just become fertile. And this should make her a criminal, and she should not be awarded any sort of benefits for doing this. But the family court is saying that, this man does now owe her child support for the rest of that baby's life. And you're probably wondering, well, how could this possibly happen? If you look at the next source that I have cited for you below, you will see there was a court case, Hermesmann versus Seyer, which set a legal precedence that a woman can sue a man for child support and be awarded it even if conception occurred due to the female raping the male. So, no, it is not an isolated incident. It is not just a corrupt judge. It is the law. The law states that a woman can rape a man and sue him for child support. How fucked up is that? Really makes you want to just not have sex. Because even if the sex is consensual, even if you have a woman who you love and you want to start a family together, you think it's going to be a nuclear family, you simply have the law against you. And that brings me to the next source I've cited for you below, which is an article on the gender bias and discrimination in family court, and how women get child custody in 90% of all cases, and how that shouldn't be legal because it is gender discrimination, but it is. That is just the way the law in family court is. So that website gives us the statistic that 90% of child custody is awarded to women. And then the next source that I have to cite for you below, a website called dadsdivorce.com, gives us the figure that dads represent 85% of child support providers and that they pay more than female payers. But for those of you men out there who are thinking, well, this is just for people who get married and have kids, and I don't want to get married or have kids. Well, it doesn't matter, because you can still get sued for child support just for dating a woman who has a child. And there have been lots of new cases about this where it is happening. I found one, in fact, where I have linked it below, that is a Texas man who was ordered to pay $65,000 in child support for a child that wasn't his, to a woman who wasn't his wife, and he was just dating. So be sure to check out that story from Fox News, because that's scary. And if that's happening in Texas, that can probably happen to anyone in America. And like I said, it's happening all over. And then the next source I have for you below from hg.org, legal resources, is about this topic of if you can be required to pay child support for a child that isn't yours, and the different fine points of that. Because, the short answer is yes, you can, but, how the court would arrive at that is the type of thing that gets discussed here if you are interested in learning more about those details. And the next reference that I have for you is an article from the Daily Mail on how women use children as weapons in divorce. So it's really great to see this getting reported on by some good journalist, because, I've experienced it myself. And it's something, that when you talk about it as a man with a lot of people, oftentimes they'll say things like, oh, well, you're just being paranoid. You're giving her too much credit. She can't be that evil. Or, you're being dramatic. Or, oh, well, just don't argue with her so much. Or why do you engage with her at all? Or maybe if you change the way you talk with her. For whatever reason, the response is always like, it can't really be happening. It's not that bad, and you need to take more responsibility somehow. It's like you just don't get believed as a man, especially when there's no evidence, when, the crime is her being psychologically manipulative. And so the point is that men often don't get listened to when they are the victims of psychological abuse, or worse, when a woman is using their children against them and using their children's mind as a battlefield for psychological warfare. And you can't call Child Protective Services on a woman who's doing that. She can just deny it, right? And it might not even be seen as a form of abuse. And again, it would be very difficult to prove. So it's really great to see that this issue is actually being reported on in the mainstream news. And if that's not enough proof for you about how evil and malicious and malignant mothers can be, check out the next source that I have cited for you below that, from a website called parentalalienation.com, which is about spreading awareness on how parental alienation is a form of child abuse. And this is an article on what is called malicious mother syndrome, from the Journal of Family Violence, volume 10, number 3, pages 253 to 264, published in 1995 by Ira Daniel Turkett, PhD. So this is a actual academic publication here on the psychology of malicious mothers and what this doctor calls malicious mother syndrome. So be sure to check that out below, because that is certainly all the proof you need of the evil tendencies of mothers. And then last but not least, I have a link for you on how abusive mothers can and do still get custody of their children from a website called eBombs World. So make sure that you check that out as well, linked below. And that should be more than enough proof. I mean, you have an abundance of proof to prove the case here that there are some extremely blatant and overt biases in family courts and the way that they treat the parents and the way that mothers treat fathers, and that fathers generally get treated very poorly by mothers. They're at an extreme disadvantage. They barely get to be fathers, and instead, they just get exploited for their genetic material and their monetary resources. And it is all legal because of the fact that that is exactly how our family court system has been set up, as well as the rest of the judicial system and the institution of marriage and every other aspect of society that has to do with male-female dynamics. It is all gynocentric and matriarchal. It is about catering to women's wants and needs at the expense of men. So that concludes this talk. Thank you for listening. Be sure to share your own thoughts and opinions by commenting below, especially if you have had any of your own experiences as a father or in family court with women. Be sure to share those stories and any information that you might have from your personal experience below. And if you like this video, be sure to hit the like button and share these messages with everyone by sharing the video on social media and talking about these things too. And lastly, check out the links in the description below for other resources for your masculine personal development and living the life you want to as an independent man. And stay tuned for the next video coming out soon, which will be on the topic of domestic violence and how women are actually the violent abusers and oppressors of men. And make sure you subscribe so you'll be notified when that is. And until then, take care of yourselves, men, because no woman out there is going to.